my name is Bharat. I've been working at Arbitrum for just about a year now. I've been working in the space for about 5 years total. And, I've had the opportunity to be able to grow out our DAO ecosystem here at Arbitrum for the past year. And, DAOs have been like a really exciting space. And something that I've, been tasked with is growing out Arbitrum's DAO ecosystem. So this is twofold. On one side of this, it's about infrastructure. So it's about getting tooling on board to Arbitrum, just so when DAOs want to deploy onto Arbitrum or migrate over from another chain, they have the infrastructure here to be able to do so. So this is things like Gnosis Safe, Snapshot, Tally, Wonderverse, Utopia Labs, a lot of stuff. So now, if you are a DAO and you want to be on Arbitrum, you have the infrastructure to be able to do so. And the other side of it is educating DAOs about why Arbitrum should be the home of your governance and your operations. So things like on-chain voting, treasury management, or just general liquidity. Arbitrum has very deep liquidity now and has a really active user base. As you can see from this chat. So it's really exciting to be on layer 2, and Arbitrum allows for DAOs to have this inclusive environment where they can scale their communities. So that's a little bit about what we are doing here, and excited to launch the show. It's going to be a series to kind of socialize and evangelize why Arbitrum is the best place to deploy a DAO. So Max, would love an intro about you and a little bit intro about Stargate as well.
Yeah, happy to. I run special projects at LayerZero Labs. LayerZero is the omnichain messaging system allowing various blockchains to speak to each other. And I do a lot of work supporting the Stargate Finance community and DAO. Stargate Finance is the most used bridge in DeFi by number of users and one of the most active by transfer volume. It acts as a liquidity transfer layer, allowing people to move funds from one chain to another, and is also a composable building block for various applications to build on top of and enable a omni-chain future for the application. So if you are an application on Arbitrum and you want to be able to allow people to deposit from various other chains, or let's say you're really excited about something that's happening on Arbitrum, you can use Stargate to bring funds over or value over and interact with that ecosystem. And we are also the largest omni-chain DAO in the world and huge fans of Arbitrum.
Yeah, appreciate that context and appreciate the kind words about the chain. And yeah, I mean, if you just look at Snapshot, you guys are the largest DAO. Like 111,000 members on Snapshot, and people getting active on each chain. It's been super impressive to see. So I guess my first question for you is, why did it make sense for you guys to have DAO operations on Arbitrum?
Sure, I think there are a couple reasons why. The first is just simply Arbitrum is one of the support chains from launch for Stargate. So if you support a chain, it makes sense to allow people to engage in governance from that chain. But also, it's easy for people to use Arbitrum, and it's relatively inexpensive for people to use Arbitrum. So it lowers the barrier to entry for people to participate in governance when they get worried. If you're worried about staking tokens to receive governance voting, it's not, the barrier to entry is dramatically lowered. And it's a vibrant ecosystem with a lot of engaged people. So it's a great way to pull new people into our community that want to help and want to help build a great product.
Yeah, 100%. And it's cool to see like our ecosystem partners, really realize that as well. Obviously our ecosystem has been like very organic, and we have a lot of users who are very active. Whether it's with their ETH or just in governance in general. I think over the past year, Arbitrum has really become like the sandbox of innovation, whether it's in the DeFi space or just some other experiments in crypto. So it's been really cool to see, and people are very excited about what's happening here. Since you guys are the largest multi-chain DAO, would love to kind of hear about some of the pros and cons of multi-chain governance, cross-chain governance. What's some stuff that you've seen?
I am the biggest fan of multi-chain governance because I think it just allows these isolated pockets of participants to all interact together in building truly great product. And I think the future is omni-chain. That's what I firmly believe, is that this omni-chain thesis plays out, and Arbitrum is a really important part of that. And when you look at people building great product across different chains, being able to connect them and bring them into your community is amazing. I mean, the con of it is the organization and technical implementation of multi-chain voting is not necessarily as straightforward as single chain voting, but it's something that we've worked hard with our partners at Snapshot and Commonwealth to overcome and enable that experience.
Yep. Yeah, makes sense. And like, in terms of, you mentioned some of these things about pockets, right? And I think when people pick a chain, they tend to stay on it, right? They kind of carry the flag of the chain and they want to get involved, specifically on one chain. So I think like having tokens bridged across these several chains, give these communities an opportunity to participate in something on their kind of home turf, which is pretty cool to see. Would you say that there's any
100%.
cons of like this fragmentation? Yep. Sorry. Go ahead.
100%. I just wanted to add that also when you look at Stargate and as people farm on top of Stargate and earn STG, which is used for governance, being able to stake it on the chain they're farming on. So people that love Arbitrum and farm within the Arbitrum pools on Stargate don't need to move those tokens to other chains to participate in governance. Because I think whenever you have the requirement to move tokens, you have drop off. People don't want to do it. It's tough to do. Or as you said, you're loyal to the chain you're on and you want to actually stay there. So by enabling omni-chain governance, you allow people to stay within that same ecosystem while participating in a sort of like vibrant multi-chain project.
Yeah, 100%. And like the stuff about like home turf is so important because like, for example, if you're on Arbitrum, you have, some security considerations where you're like, I want to be on a roll up, but I still want to be involved with like this really great DAO, Stargate, obviously the largest one. I want to be involved, but just on my chain in a more like cost effective way. And you mentioned some cool things like how Arbitrum users can get involved with Stargate where you can, actually like farm, VSTG and do that all on your home chain. So it's really cool you guys have enabled that.
Yeah, and the other thing is when you stake STG for VESTG, which enables you to participate in governance, you also, based on a community vote that was enacted fairly early on in Stargate's life, there's also fee sharing from the actual revenue produced by Stargate. And when you stake on Arbitrum, you get to actually claim the fees on Arbitrum as well. So you're talking about a very low cost of both staking, fee claiming, and continued participation within governance.
Yeah, super interesting. And I think like just Stargate as a product like plays such an important role in Arbitrum because you know bridges, whether it's to Arbitrum or out of Arbitrum. Obviously Arbitrum we provide our own bridge to get into the Arbitrum world, but that 7 day withdrawal period will always exist because of our optimistic roll up scheme. That 7 day period is super important for like the fraud proof window. So a product like Stargate with such deep liquidity is like absolutely crucial for people who are very active and want to kind of hop from chain to chain, whether it's from Arbitrum back to Ethereum or somewhere else.
Exactly. I mean, the whole point of a liquidity transfer layer is to enable the movement of value, and that's what we try to do with Arbitrum. Allow people to
Yep.
bring value to Arbitrum and interact with it within the chain, and then if they for some reason want to leave, beats me why anybody would, but if they want to leave at some point, it's an option to do it.
Yeah, 100%. I think something that's been really interesting to note about like the Arbitrum community is like, when we first launched in August of 2021, we had, almost like 600,000 ETH bridged over in the first week, which was like a huge number of ETH and like was really exciting to see. And I think like we've seen from some other chains that, a lot of the liquidity that was bridged over was like kind of mercenary liquidity and, they took their incentives and kind of left. But, to date, Arbitrum's bridged over ETH has just continuously gone up and up, and I think we're over 700,000 ETH now. So it's been really cool to see. So usually when people move over to Arbitrum, they tend to want to stay on it because so many of the products that they use on main chain Ethereum are now on Arbitrum, and the liquidity is deep enough where they aren't really even making a trade off of like slippage because the fees are like 10 times lower, but the slippage is like minute. So people tend to really stay on Arbitrum too. And I think a big reason for that is because, things like Stargate and, other products have made a commitment to like believing that Arbitrum is the future of Ethereum scaling, and we want to really focus on our product here as well.
I think that's also reflected in the usage that we see through Stargate, and like Arbitrum is the third largest chain by transaction volume on Stargate, which is really interesting to see. And I think we also see it by various projects building on Arbitrum, and using Stargate to help enable liquidity from other chains to come to their projects, and to help bring new users in a seamless way to Arbitrum itself.
Yep, totally agreed. I guess my last question for you would be, what excites you in the DAO space today, just generally?
I think DAOs are an incredibly useful part of DeFi, and it gives the sort of community a voice and a real voice. And I think what really excites me is, as the concept of a DAO has been better understood, and it's sort of what people expect out of a DAO has been better understood. There's meaningful contribution that continually happens to a lot of the DeFi products, and you can become part of a DAO. It doesn't matter what your background is, and it doesn't matter who you are, and you can have your voice heard. And that's super exciting to me from a decentralization standpoint and from a community standpoint. And it's really exciting to me when I'm interacting with our Stargate community, how passionate some people within our community are about what Stargate is building and where that's going.
Yeah, totally agree. I think this year it's been really interesting talking to hundreds of DAOs, and I think a lot of people went through kind of this trough of disillusionment, when the bear market started this year, where people went through this period of euphoria with Constitution DAO last year, and they saw the power of coordination and how fun it was to be a part of a community. And I think there was a lot of attrition, and people were leaving the space earlier this year because I guess the number wasn't really going up anymore. But I think now some of the dust is cleared, and there's been some really interesting experiments in coordination, and people who are very excited about it sounds nerdy, but different ways to govern a community, and how to grow communities organically versus just the strategy of number go up. And I think a lot of DeFi protocols have had to make similar considerations when growing their communities. But it's been cool to see the financial DAOs and non-financial DAOs figure out ways to find product market fit and have sticky communities this year.
Yeah, and I think with the with multi-chain becoming a much more prevalent thing and more multi-chain DAOs springing up, I'd love to hear from your perspective about why you feel Arbitrum makes sense as a sort of hub for multi-chain DAO.
Yeah, 100%. So I think Arbitrum, plays a really important role here because we have kind of become the selected chain to to scale Ethereum in a way, right? So we're obviously right now the largest roll up by TVL. Around $2.5 billion of value is locked on chain, including the bridge. So I think the fact that we've gotten DeFi liquidity here and we have a lot of sticky users there is very attractive to kind of create this flywheel of other crypto applications, right? So because a lot of the bigger, I guess, whales are over on Arbitrum being active with their ETH, people come over here and they say, hey, I want to get active in DeFi, but look at all this cool stuff happening with the DAO world, and look at all this stuff happening with the NFT world. And I think the fact that protocols are just natively launching on Arbitrum now gives early DAO, community members an opportunity to shape the future of a product with a lot of potential. So, this kind of sandbox of innovation that I talked about earlier is really exciting from a governance perspective because the community really has a chance to shape the roadmap of the protocol. And I think with some other chains, they kind of get a deployment of a product that's gone to a lot of different chains, and that's really great. But I think people on Arbitrum are very active, whether it's from a DeFi perspective or another perspective. So getting active community members is pretty much the number one goal of DAOs right now. So it's cool to see that happening on Arbitrum in a way that isn't happening on a lot of other chains.
I couldn't agree more. What we're really excited about and what we're looking forward to, hopefully post this space, is having more Arbitrum builders come and engage with our community and our DAO. And that's not necessarily just from a, come learn more about Stargate and build on it, but it's also the fact that Stargate has millions of dollars of POL on Arbitrum. And the community, our community, loves interacting with other builders and other protocols. And it's a question of how can the Stargate DAO work together with other people to help foster innovation on the chains that Stargate exists on, and also interact with other protocols there. So that's something that's super exciting to me. That I hope we're going to start seeing more on Arbitrum. We've seen the beginnings of it, but we'd love to interact with every single project building on Arbitrum, frankly, and find ways to help support the ecosystem.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that that's such a great thing about our ecosystem is the fact that like everyone, we have like a group on Telegram that's just like all of our ecosystems projects in one group, and people are really like excited about working with each other. And we all kind of feel like we're on the same team here at Arbitrum, where we want Ethereum to like scale, and we want to like help each other. And most projects on Arbitrum are like bootstrap projects, right? So like people are very excited about like business development and like partnerships, and kind of pushing everyone, like a rising tide lifts all boats type situation. So working with every project is honestly even just like one chat away in a Telegram group. So we're obviously happy to facilitate that, but I know the community is excited, to do that proactively as well.
Sure. So outside of that facilitation, how else does Arbitrum support DAO operations outside of being a great chain, of course?
Yeah, of course. So yeah, like you mentioned, I think the first step is just making sure you create, first of all, an inclusive environment, gas fee wise. I think right now a simple token transfer on Arbitrum is around 2 cents, but like also making sure like security considerations are there as well. So a lot of DAOs tend to stay on mainnet because they trust the security of Ethereum. So I think Arbitrum, being a roll up and really thinking about security as like number one priority, we are making sure that DAOs don't have to really make a big trade off when it comes to where they keep their funds, whether it's their treasury or just keep their community, right? I think like a lot of other chains have made security trade offs, at the just to save on gas fees, which it's their imperative to do that. But I think Arbitrum has found a way to maintain this idea of security being number one, but also because of like our newest Nitro upgrade with our compression getting better, gas fees are so minimal that people feel safe on the chain, but also are interacting in a way that's very inclusive to people who want to be on Ethereum. So that's the first way. I think the second layer of that is obviously the application layer. So a lot of DAO tools have been very interested in deploying on Arbitrum because just like the way DeFi saw it, they see Arbitrum as the future of scaling for DAOs as well. So we have dozens and dozens of tools on Arbitrum now. So a lot of the tools that people were using on Ethereum, things like I said, Safe, Snapshot, Utopia Labs, Tally, Wonderverse. I mean, I could go on and on. The Commonwealth, Collabland. These things are all on Arbitrum now, and DAOs are actively using them. So, whether you want to go directly, you can obviously permissionlessly use these tools. But, if you are a DAO and interested in being on Arbitrum, please reach out to me, and I'm happy to connect you with these teams. And we can do that like today. So, like I said, a lot of these DAO tools are on Arbitrum and excited to work with DAOs. So it's a big way that we can help support the ecosystem, either going through me or going through these tools themselves.
Yeah, and I think the point you make that resonates with our community is the idea of cost and the idea of inclusiveness as a result. If you can, stake or move value for just a couple pennies, it opens up the ability for many more people to be involved, from where cost is not a prohibitive measure against DAO participation. And I think that's super important, and that leads to a better community.
Yeah, totally. And like one thing on cost, which is important, is I think with 4844 coming out soon, there will be a point in which cost is really low on a lot of chains, and it'll be the difference between like 0.001 cents versus 0.002 cents, and at a certain point, it's so minimal that it's all going to come down to security and whether you feel secure on the chain and trust their, whether it's like the roll-up mechanism, their fraud-proof system, or whatever it is. Security is going to become paramount over lower fees. So I think like the fact that Arbitrum kind of boasts this deep liquidity and like a bustling DeFi ecosystem, but also has the strongest security in the space. I think it's going to become like a really it's a really strong suit of ours, and I think people are going to like realize that security is as, if not more important than paying lower fees. Our fees will continue to trend down and be some of the lowest in the space, but I think security is one of those things that we really maintain as the most important part of Arbitrum, and I think people are going to really value that going forward.
And yeah, and that's the same ethos of the Stargate community. I mean, the Stargate community is security comes first, and user fund safety comes first, which is Stargate's never lost a single penny of user funds. And the fact of the matter is you want to be in places where you never are put in that situation in the first place. And I think that ethos translates into DAO participation as well. You want to be on chains where you inherently trust the underlying chain.
Yep. Yep, 100%. I guess I want to go back to something that you mentioned before about POL. Could you just kind of explain like Stargate's POL to our community and see like how they can potentially get involved with that?
Yeah, absolutely. So Stargate, on every single chain it's deployed on, maintains POL. So it maintains an STG and stablecoin pairing to allow people, because you can earn STG emissions from LPing within Stargate. The decision was made early on that from the community that there should be POL on all of these chains. That POL currently sits on Balancer on Arbitrum, but we've seen on other chains various projects come forwards and come bring proposals around where POL should go or how it should be optimized or it should interact with other projects, and there have been community votes and decisions made and POLs moved around. So there's an opportunity for other projects building to come up with different proposals around how POL should be utilized, and our community also directs how POL is utilized on those chains, and votes around how that POL is actually deployed, and what AMM it's on, where it goes. And we're proud to have sticky value on Arbitrum. So there's POL in two ways that exists in Arbitrum. So the LP is one, and the other is Stargate maintains liquidity within the actual pools on Arbitrum that Stargate supports to enable the facilitation of value transfer. So that POL won't move. It sits there, and it sits there as persistent liquidity forever to make sure that there's always the ability to move to and from Arbitrum.
Sweet. Yes, super helpful explanation. And I think, I know we're almost at time here. So, is there a good way to get involved, with the Stargate community on Arbitrum today, right? Whether it's joining a Discord or potentially writing a governance proposal. I know, like we've mentioned it a bunch of times, but our community is super active and just like can't wait to get involved with protocols who, see Arbitrum as the future of scaling Ethereum. What are some ways that they can get involved, like today, and maybe deeper going forward?
Yeah, the easiest way is to join Telegram and Discord. Discord is the most active community room we have. We also have Commonwealth set up where anyone can come in and interact with our community, writing general discussion or proposals. And then, those proposals are picked up by members of our community and put into Snapshot for voting and execution. So joining in any of those ways is great. We would love for anybody new to come and interact with us and learn more about Stargate and become a part of our community. We want more people to be involved. We want more people to be active within governance, and we're excited about Arbitrum being a piece of that.
Sweet. Yeah, Max, really appreciate that. And, I think you really drew it out well, ways to get involved with Stargate and their DAO and Arbitrum. And I think, if you're tuning in and you're interested in getting more involved with, governance on, the Arbitrum side and the Arbitrum ecosystem side, please feel free to reach out to me and, keep tuning into the show. I think we're going to continue to bring on more great DAOs on Arbitrum, more DAO tooling on Arbitrum, and, more ways to get involved, our community involved with governance. I think our community is super involved with DeFi and with the NFT ecosystems, which are so great. But we have a chance to really steer the direction of a lot of great protocols we see a lot of potential in, and I think governance is the best way to get involved with that. So they will be continue to be featured on this program, and I think this is a good place to end it. So Max, really appreciate you joining. If people can reach out to you directly, is that cool? Or they can join the Stargate Telegram as well.
Anytime. If anybody wants to get in touch with me, you can reach out directly. Would love to chat, and truly appreciate you having me on here, and have really enjoyed talking about the sort of future of governance and Stargate.
Yep. Yeah, of course, man. Appreciate you coming on, and thank you everyone for joining.